Hello, and thank you for joining me for today's Creative Studio Craft Kit. This craft kit is part of our Makerspace 2023 programming series, which honors Women's History Month and International Women's Day. For this craft kit, we are going to be making a wood sign that says Empowered Women Empower Women. We have a limited number of kits available in the Creative Studio on a first-come, first-served basis, and the kits include all the supplies you need for this craft. The stuff that's included in the kit is a 8-inch wood panel. We've already done a base seal on this to make it easier to paint. We have a pre-cut stencil with the Empowered Women Empower Women phrase and transfer tape. These were cut using our Cricut and Silhouette cutting machines. We also included 3 types of paint that you get to pick from, but we only included 2 brushes. So if you are going to use all 3 paints, you are going to need to reuse a brush or find some more brushes to use. Not included in the kit that you might want to use is wood stain if you want to stain your wood panel darker, or if you want to do a base color paint. If you have white or black or other colors, you could paint a base color. Also not included in your kit is wood sealing. That is going to be useful if you want to put this outside to seal it from water and the weather. But if you're going to put it inside, you don't have to worry about sealing your wood panel when you're done. These are all the supplies you need for the kit. Let's get crafting. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our pre-cut, pre-weeded stencil and get it ready to put on our wood panel. So these stencils were cut with our Cricut and Silhouette cutting machines. We cut the design and weeded them for you so we can paint in the text. What we're going to do is we want the stencil to lay flat. So if it's curling too much, a useful tip is to take some tape and tape it down so you have a flatter surface to work with. Once you have it taped down or flattened, you can grab your transfer tape. Transfer tape is basically just a large piece of tape, and what this is going to do is it's going to let us transfer the stencil in one piece onto our wood. So we're going to peel the transfer tape off of its backing. This piece just ends up in the garbage. And the sticky transfer tape, what we want to do is try and lay it down on our stencil without any sort of bubbles or wrinkles. Once you get that transfer tape on top of your stencil, you can remove the tape holding your stencil down. And then what we're going to do is we are going to apply some pressure on that stencil so that way the tape really sticks to that stencil. And in one of the corners, we're going to start peeling up the tape, and the stencil should come with it. You'll notice that I almost lost 2 pieces here and here. I almost lost the inside of my P and one of the insides of the word women. So I'm going to go back and stick those onto my transfer tape. And then this piece can go in the garbage. Next up is to put our stencil on our wood panel. So we're going to get our stencil on a flat surface, and we're going to line up our stencil as best we can so it's centered on top of the wood. I like to eyeball this. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you want to lay it down and you want to try and avoid any wrinkles. So once you lay it down, you want to push and start to smooth out any sort of wrinkles or bubbles that you might have. The next thing we're going to do is take this transfer tape off. This can get hard because the stencil doesn't stick well to wood, so you kind of have to push that stencil down while peeling your transfer tape off. And you just want to do this slowly so that way you don't tear or remove any part of your stencil from the wood. Transferring the stencil is the hardest part, so if you've made it this far, you are doing great. You'll notice that on mine, I have a lot of bubbles and wrinkles still. So at this point, what we want to do is try and smooth out our stencil, especially where the edges of the letters are. So for instance, it doesn't matter if I have a bubble over here because I'm going to be painting over here. So this is where I want to make sure is smooth. So we're going to come along and we're going to apply some pressure and we're going to try and smooth out the stencil as best we can to get rid of any bubbles. Alright, so for painting, we gave you 3 colors, but only 2 paintbrushes. So you're going to need to decide what colors you're using or find more paintbrushes. I'm actually going to end up using my teal and purple because I really like those colors. And you just want to be careful that you don't get paint everywhere. And so I am going to paint Empowered and empower the teal. And the women in purple. So we are going to apply some paint and we're just going to brush in the stencil. Alright, so I've applied my first layer of paint. I recommend letting this dry and applying a second layer of paint. Whether you're doing 1 layer of paint or 2, you want to make sure that the paint is fully dry before you remove the stencil. So I'm going to let this dry, I'm going to apply a second coat and also let that dry, and then I'm going to come back to show you how to remove the stencil. Alright, so I have 2 layers of paint on my sign that have completely dried. So now that the paint is dry, I'm going to peel off the stencil. And I wasn't being super careful because I accidentally chipped the paint there. So once you remove the big part of the stencil, you're going to go through and remove the small parts that are inside your letters. Alright, so here is my mostly finished sign. You will notice I have a few blemishes. When I peeled my stencil, it actually chipped my wood and my paint, so I'm going to take a small paintbrush and I'm going to try and fix that up. I also want to point out that there are some blemishes where I had a lot of bubbles. So unfortunately there were some spots where the bubbles kept on popping up and I couldn't get the stencil to stick down. This is why it's really important to try and get those bubbles out. Hopefully by the end of this video you have a finished Empowered Women Empower Women sign. We hope you enjoyed this craft. It was made possible using our Cricut and Silhouette cutting machines in our creative studio. If you want to learn more about our creative studio and the type of projects you can make using our equipment, you can give us a call, stop in, or you can go online to look at our newsletter or events calendar to see what other classes we have and to sign up for an in-person class. We hope you enjoyed this. Have a nice day.